I agree. I use the same approach for dating. I treated Cathy like a human being, and I wasn't afraid of rejection. Next topic.
Hi, creative friends. It's Cathy from Easy Sunday Club.
Hi, it's Nam from Easy Sunday Club.
So today we're gonna do a lightning run FAQ segment. We promised we would do this because we've been getting a lot of comments and I'm starting to not be able to answer all of them. So I figure we'd compile everything and spit out our answers in this quick video.
Yeah, so we'll just take it one by one and hope it helps.
Okay, so we'll start with our most popular type of questions, which is around printing, like printing your art prints, greeting cards, ink related stuff.
I get a lot of questions on how much it costs to print ink-wise. So when you print a paper or a print, how much ink does it cost us? So I just usually do a quick Google, and there's this good webpage from Red River, and it breaks down the ink costs for the Epson P800, which is the printer I use. But if you search around this website, you might be able to find information about your Canon printer or for your HP printer, depending on how popular the fine art printer is. In general, the cost to print out one piece of 8.5 by 11 paper is $1 to $2. But this is making some assumptions, and one of those assumptions is that you're printing on the entire whole freaking piece of paper. When it comes to Cathy's artwork, so I usually have to print prints for this person over here. She uses like a lot of white space, so I actually don't print on the entire piece of paper. Maybe I use 1/4, maybe I use half if it's like a really big painting. So it's an estimate at best, but you can kind of take this in consideration as you figure out what the cost per print is for yourself. Another caveat to add is that if you feel like the ink costs too much, then you can always explore using third-party inks, but use it at your own risk, because printer repair people that we talk to say that this is usually the best way to screw up your printer. But you get to save so much money on ink.
And I remember someone asked me how often we replace our inks, and our current Epson P800 comes with 9 cartridges, and depending on what color we use the most, they just run out at different rates, right? So for example, the LLK light black is a cartridge that we run out the most frequently. We'd often have to buy one-offs like 1 or 2 times a year just to be able to offset the rest of the set that's not being used up as often. So we'll still buy a whole set at least twice a year, I would say, at our current rate. But on top of that, we'd also buy the LLK cartridge.
Yeah.
On top of the
the LLK definitely gives Cathy the most ink anxiety.
Anxiety.
Wow.
Along the line of printing related questions, people have also asked what's the difference between TIFF, PSD, and JPEG file format, which one they should use to print out their greeting cards and art prints. The short answer is TIFF is the most preferred way for printing out from Adobe programs if you're printing photos or art prints, because it preserves the most amount of metadata and from your images, for lack of, not to get too technical here.
So nerdy.
It also allows you to save all the layers. So let's say I'm editing my art print and I want to save layers where I'm editing different, where I'm editing the brightness, saturation stuff, but I don't want to just flatten the image in case I change my mind later or if I need to use it for something else. TIFF allows me to preserve all the layers just like PSD does. And TIFF also allows me to save a file up to, I think, 4 gigabytes. Not that I hit that amount all the time, rarely, but let's say one of my print is a compilation of different images and I want to preserve all the layers. There's 26 different images, then TIFF comes in handy.
I only use JPEG if I'm going to send an email meme to someone, or I need to upload the picture onto the website, then probably JPEG's the best, just because it makes it smaller, but you also lose a lot of quality.
Yeah. And that's why you're not an artist. You share stuff from the internet and send to people as jokes.
Yes.
And JPEG is
JPEG is preferred for
right.
memes.
Yes. Actually, GIFs. GIFs?
Yeah.
GIFs are preferred for memes.
All right. Next, bro.
Next question is also related to printing. So someone asked why we keep our files, our image files, as RGB and not CMYK when CMYK is the preferred setting for when you're printing it into a physical surface. The reason for us is we have a really nice Epson printer that does a really good job of converting the color profiles to the appropriate paper profiles. But I like designing and keeping everything in RGB format because sometimes I do use them for web as well. Since our printer is good old reliable Epson, it does a good job of converting, and we've never had any issue with the colors coming out differently than on what we expected. And that's after a lot of testing, obviously.
So is the answer depends on your preference and who your printer is?
What your printer is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and whether your printer handles the conversion itself.
Yeah. A printer can be a what or a who.
Sure.
It's a person who's printing or an actual printer. So it depends on who's printing it or what you're printing it on.
Okay.
That's a real eye roll.
Okay. What's next? All right, this is the last question about printing. Sophie asked, do you have any recommendation on companies to outsource the printing that offer good quality prints? I've never continuously outsourced any printing to an outside printer except for my calendar and a few times when someone orders oversized prints that our printer doesn't
Handle.
Thanks, dude. However, from my experience and from talking to other artists and designers who have used outsource services, here are my recommendations. So the few times I have used a printer to print oversized watercolor art print, I used a site called Zclay today. They specialize in fine art quality prints. So if you're selling art prints at a higher price point, then you can definitely handle the margin that you will make from their costs. They tend to make like higher quality archival prints. So each of their print costs, at least $5 for 8x10, right? So if you're selling it for $10, it's not going to be worth it. But if you're selling archival quality art prints, they print them in really high quality. Not only that, they offer drop shipping services. So like I said, a couple times I used their service, I upload the image and they will send it directly to the customer that bought the print from me. They also have no minimums because they offer drop ship, so you can send these one-off orders to them and they'll fulfill them as if they're individual orders. If you're making greeting cards and you want to outsource printing there, my best recommendation is Red River Catalog. Put the URL in the description below. I've never used them personally, but I've heard great things about other illustrators, designers who sell greeting cards with their who use them for their printing services. Their catch is, and that goes with most greeting card suppliers, is you have to order a minimum. So theirs is 50 for most paper types. And if you're just starting out, that feels like a daunting number to have to commit to 50 of each design, right? So if you're releasing like 10 different cards, you would have to order 500 cards. And that seems like a lot to commit to, especially when you don't know which one is going to perform well. But their prices are reasonable at 50 minimum. I think each card's only cost you like between 80 cents to $1, including an envelope. And the last catch is you still have to package it yourself. I believe they do pre-score the card for you, but you still have to buy a celluloid sleeve that I use to protect my cards inside the package just in case the outer package gets wet or whatnot. So yeah, it doesn't take away the labor completely. So if you do have a printer that can print smaller sizes like cardstock, I recommend doing it yourself first. The third one is if you're looking to sell print-on-demand products like t-shirts, hats, iPhone cases, or actually like an art print that's already pre-framed. Printful is my best recommendation. I've ordered all those things before, either as gifts or just for fun. I've been pretty happy with their quality. I've ordered totes from them as well. They're not the cheapest of the bunch. There are other competitors out there like Printify, T-Launch. There's a bunch of others that offer similar print-on-demand services, but in my opinion, they provide the best quality and very reasonable turnaround. So we got a few questions about wholesale, specifically around Faire, because we did 2 videos reviewing our experience with Faire wholesale marketplace as a seller. So obviously we're on the maker side, so our experience is specifically to the maker side. In terms of pricing, on Faire, because everything is wholesale, we list the price of what we would sell to a wholesale client. So it's for us, it's typically 50% of what we would sell directly to the consumer. And then the buyer, who's a store owner or buyer, can then mark it up to the suggested retail price. Sure, they can sell it at higher than the suggested retail price if they want to, but usually there's kind of an honor system in the industry where you would price it at least twice as, at least 2x the wholesale price, just so you're not undercutting other retailers. If you want to price it higher, that's up to you too, but obviously you have to stay competitive in other ways. Someone also asked a week ago if we had changed our mind about how we feel about Faire since we did this video a few months ago. 2020 has thrown a wrench in entire wholesale world, obviously, especially for non-essential goods. My wholesale business died overnight in March, and it's still slowly recovering. I'm not getting as many orders as I used to. I've kind of just kept on autopilot. So that tells me that on the retail side, a lot of store owners are still struggling with either getting rid of their inventory that they haven't been able to sell pre-COVID, or they're being cautious about buying more inventory because they don't know when they're gonna have to shut down again, or they don't know how likely people are to spend money this holiday season. All of these things are real concerns, and I don't think it's necessarily like Faire's fault. In terms of like what we think of Faire specifically, I do get the sense that Faire is getting more crowded because if you watched our video, you know that they're a venture-backed company and they feel the pressure to grow as quickly as possible. That's kind of the nature of these startups. If that means bringing in like a mixed bag of accounts on the seller side, on the buyer side, that tends to dilute the quality of both the goods that are offered as well as the quality of the buyers. Yeah, and we kind of liken it to an online dating app in our review video as well, whereas you have the illusion of endless choices, so there's less of an incentive for you as a buyer to commit to a brand unless they're selling really, really well. And in my experience in the past year or so, my repeat buying rate is really low compared to the wholesale clients that I have a relationship with outside the platform. And because of that, it undercuts into my margin because Faire collects 25% of the first order and 15% of subsequent orders. So if I never get a second order, I'm eating up the 25%. Next question is, a couple of people asked us how we approach selling to local businesses, because I recommended growing your wholesale with local businesses in your area code or city.
There's a couple ways to pitch. One way is cold email, where you kind of set up a Excel spreadsheet, find all the target stores in your area, write down their email or contact information. Sometimes that's hard to find for the actual purchaser of the store. And then you send them a pitch email, and then they usually don't respond. And then you follow up until you get either a no or a maybe or a yes. So that's usually what the process is. That being said, I don't really have the patience for sales, and it was really difficult. Cathy actually was a lot better at sales than I was, and I'll let her walk through her tips.
And of course, that's like the low risk of approaching them, right? We can also go into the store, maybe not in 2020. Unfortunately, we can go in the store on a no, probably not on the weekend when they're super busy. And we can ask them who their buyer is or owner is. Usually it's the owner. If they're not in the shop, the person at the shop will give you an email address in which you can respond with the lead-in that you went to the store. So that's better than just cold pitching with an email and they don't even know if you know they existed before this. A few times we've gone in the store and talked to the owner and they were actually the person that we asked is the owner and the buyer, in which case we're kind of like on the spot having to sell. But it's one of those things where I feel like rejection only gets easier after you've experienced them. So as much as you can fear rejection, once you've experienced it, it gets easier and easier the next time. And if they're not rejecting you as a human being, or a lot of times they're not even rejecting your product, it's just not the right time for them to buy. They have certain like cyclical buying seasons, or you caught them at the wrong time. They're human beings too. They might be like in the middle of something. So it's a relationship building process. As I'm answering it, I feel like I need to make a whole video about this topic, so I'll just stop right here.
I agree. I use the same approach for dating. I treated Cathy like a human being, and I wasn't afraid of rejection. Next topic.
Sure, you weren't. Next one is a fun one because we just made a video about this. So by the time this video's out, that one is out too, so make sure to check it out. This person asked how we came up with the brand name Easy Sunday Club. A lot of artists are struggling with whether to use their name for their art business or another name. But coming up with the name is hard. So I've come up with certain processes and like criteria on what makes a good name, and then also taking some advice from a book that I liked on this topic. The book is called Hello, My Name is Awesome by Alexander Watkins.
We made a whole video about this. Very, very short TLDR, too long didn't read version, is make down a list of your favorite words and then start trying to make connections between the words. Find things that connect with you somehow or may not make sense on paper, but emotionally they connect with you, right? And then after that, you always got to check to see whether or not it's taken by somebody else, and you can go look that up on TESS, T-E-S-S, which is the U.S. Patent and Trade Office trademark search database. And then if it's available and the URL is available, then that's your new business name.
One more person asked about renaming our business and whether it affected my followers or business in general. It's hard to attribute the growth of my business to one change alone, but I would say that I feel a lot more confident and comfortable when I am sharing my business name that is something that I'm proud of, that is also like easy to understand for people. So did it help my business? I'm sure it did.
I agree. I mean, a lot of you guys out there, I'm pretty sure, were given one name but use another name in your personal life or in your office. Same thing happened to me, but then you changed it, right? And how did you feel when you changed it? I'm sure it wasn't super meaningful to the people out there, but it meant something to you, right? So that type of confidence that you have in a name that you are proud of is what matters more than the actual name itself, in our opinion. As far as like the rebranding process goes, it's a huge pain because like we already had a web page with links to everything and
Business
information.
Emails.
Huh?
Our emails.
Yeah,
Had the old
emails,
domain.
Website, physical goods, online goods. So it's a really, really long process, long story short.
Which is why it's probably recommended. It's better to do it earlier. We did it in end of year 2. But it's, better late than never.
Yeah.
Also, don't let it stop you from starting your business in the first place. The final question is around finding your niche as an artist. This is something I'm also dedicating at least 1 or 2 videos around. So check if it's out. It might not be when this video is released. It's asking, a lot of artists struggle with finding their distinct artistic voice because they're interested in different mediums, or they're interested in different things. They want to do like illustration, they want to do paintings, they want to do acrylic or oil. My short answer is, giving a little bit of tough love again, is if you want to explore and keep this as a fun hobby, like, feel free to experiment with different things for as long as you want. But if you want to be a professional, especially a professional self-employed artist with your own business, you have to take it seriously, and that comes with some compromises with your, wild creativity. As much as I want to paint everything under the sun, I've committed the first 4 years of my business to painting wildlife animals, or animals in general, but mostly wildlife. And I've targeted, nursery. Have I branched out from that niche since then? Yes, I have. But it's only because I've been able to establish a brand with the first niche I've identified that I'm able to branch out, because the people that have been following my work trust me and know that I will deliver high quality products, even if I'm no longer painting animals.
We get it. You guys are amazing creative minds, and that's one of the gifts and curses of being an artist, right? You guys have so many freaking ideas that are great and that you want to execute on all of them. But in order to kind of start off and grow a business, you got to whittle it down to the highest quality ones that will keep your interest, and go for those.
So I know that doesn't answer your question of how to find a niche that's right for you. The long story short, before I make a whole video about it, is I feel like you have an inkling of what that is already. Like, let's say tomorrow, the biggest news station wants to interview you, and they say you have to talk about one thing that you're focusing on. Like, what theme would you tell them that you're working on? What would be the niche that you would tell like hundred thousands of people? You're at gunpoint and someone forces an answer out of you. I feel like you know the answer. It's just you don't have the pressure and the time sensitivity to make a decision, so you can lollygag and say like, oh, I like different things, but really, you know what it is, right? So a couple of people asked me, what is my best-selling product category? I sell art prints, original paintings, pins, greeting cards, and baby blankets. And that's grown over the years. I started with prints. So because I make a lot of greeting card videos on this channel, people are wondering, like, are my best-selling products greeting cards? The short answer is no, but I'll get into it. This answer is kind of two-pronged. First one is, when you're looking at the business overall, my best-selling product is actually my baby blankets that I've designed from my own watercolor painting and printed on fabric and sewn and everything. The second one is art prints, and the third one is greeting cards. But if you do one click down, depending on the selling platform, different products perform differently. So for example, my prints sell really well on Etsy. I have an Etsy shop with mostly my art prints. It's kind of on autopilot because I've invested more energy into growing my own Shopify site. However, most of my prints are sold on Etsy. That's just where people looking for my type of art for their rooms and for their kids' room and whatnot. But my Shopify website sells the most baby blankets because I don't sell it anywhere else. And that is an area I want to continue to build my brand on. In terms of greeting cards, it's a mixed bag. I do sell on my own website, but I find that greeting cards sells the best in person, and that includes in-person fairs or wholesale to stores or consignment.
It's probably because of the lower price point. Like when people see it, then it's not a big deal for them to buy it. But when they buy it online, then they have to factor in shipping and stuff, and that might be a turnoff.
Definitely.
And there's one thing to say about best seller in terms of dollar value, like what drives the most dollar value sales versus what's actually the most quantity number of
Definitely.
things, and also which one has the best profit margin. So depends on how you want to segment and slice and dice the stuff.
So that's it for our first round of FAQs. If you guys have more questions, feel free to leave in the comments below. We will try to do this periodically as we get more questions.
Thank you so much. If you want to support us, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we'll talk to you very soon. Thank you.
See you next time.